It's great?
Yes. Time.
As they say in Yiddish, fasten your seatbelt.
Yes, come over here. Yes, move this way. Move this way. Thank you, sir.
We'll talk in English because there are some chevra that are going to be listening with verstehen nicht. First of all, it's an incredible zechia for me, even though I live in Yerushalayim HaKodesh, and to leave Yerushalayim to come to America is a big yerida, but to come here is a yerida tachlis aliyah. To be in a Breslov shir like this, which came out of a lot of good ritzonos, that this place came. It started in a basement from pure good emistika ritzonos, and the Gemara says, that that's how it goes. That's the Seder. Hashem created the world. Vayeira, Vayeira, Yom Echad. First, it starts with Erev, with Choshech, and then it becomes Lechtig. If a person is able to wait, if a person is able to do what needs to be done, Kanai Nahara, to be in such a place, and to know, and once upon a time there was just davening here. Then there came some learning, and now a Kollel that's here, Kanai Nahara. You know, incredible things, Baruch Hashem. In the middle of Torah Samachei, we'll start from Siv Dalet, and we'll learn inside. We'll talk if anybody has questions or if anybody wants to add the Simcha. The Simcha. The Rebbe here is talking about that every person in this world has Yisurim. And sometimes the wealthier a person is, Mar ben Chosim, Mar bedaiga. People think sometimes that I'll get rich, I won't have any worries. Talk to the rich people and look at them, and you find out that they have more worries many times, more daigas. So the Rebbe says, how does a person deal with that? And he gives that the whole sefer is wall-to-wall eitzes. Rav Nosson Zal says, what's special about Manishtana Likutim Ran from another Hasidic sefer? There's a lot of Hasidishes from Manishtana that this sefer, besides talking about problems, talks about solutions. Gives practical eitzes. Every Torah is eitzes, how to solve problems, how to make things better. So in this Torah, one of the eitzes that he gives a mashal, that just like when a person has eyes, person can see, their normal vision is they can see on a clear day, they're standing near the ocean, they can see a ship that's 3 miles out there. But if there's a ship that's 4 miles out or 5 miles out, and you want to see, can't see, or can see a little bit of what it is, approximately what it is. But if a person wants to see further than they can normally, they squint. By closing the opening of the eye, you're able to see further. A person would say, I don't understand, Meshiga. You would think just the opposite. I want to see further. You have to open the eye more. It's not true. We know it's a fact. That by closing the eye, closing the opening of the eye, why? And the Rebbe explains, because the vision is like a ray that goes out. And the further out it travels, the more it gets dispersed. We know today there's a concept of a laser beam, laser surgery, laser gun, that because this is so concentrated, because it's much stronger, much stronger. So a person's vision, the more a person can concentrate their vision, the more they can see further, begashnius. So the Rebbe says now that baruchnius, we know that in this world, there's toiv and ra. The Gemara says when something good happens, we make one bracha. When something bad happens, we make a different bracha. There are people that say, alles git, senor git. It's not true. That's not what it says in the Torah. The Torah says gits and shlechs. It says that in losid lavoi, it's going to be kulei toiv. And we today can get a taste of that sometime. There are tzaddikim that are with 1 foot in losid lavoi, or with 1.5 feet losid lavoi. But down here, there's a metzias of toiv and ra. The way from our perception, there's toiv and ra. So here, when there's ra, it could be very painful and very difficult. So the Rebbe says the solution is to leave here, not to leave here to die. You don't have to die. That by closing your eyes to this world, closing your eyes to the gashmias in this world, You take yourself out of this world, above this world. You can put yourself in the next world. This term, Segira de'ena mechezo dai alma, to close my eyes to all the distractions of this world. And closing my eyes, when a person's davening Shemon Esrei sometimes, a person wants to have dveikus to Hashem, they close their eyes. Why? Because what am I doing? The eyes are the chachma. It says, Vatipokachna einei shneim. The eyes are called seichel. So why are you closing your eyes? The answer is because there's something higher than seichel. There's a pasuk, V'hachachma me'ayin timotzei. That chachma is not the top. Chachma is very high. Kulam b'chachma sis, it's very high on the ladder. But there's higher than chachma. There's something called ayin. There's something called the keser. That you have a head. The head is the top of the person. There's something above the head, the crown on top of the head. And that ayin, the way that a person connect, in order to connect to that ayin, one of the ways to do it is you have to close your eyes. You have to be able to close your eyes. And the Rebbe says that's why Hashem put it in the nature of a person, in the teva of a human being, that when he's in the dentist chair and the dentist says, I'm going to drill now, it's going to be painful. But it's just going to take a minute. Just what does the person do? They close their eyes tight. Why? Because that gives the person the ability to disconnect from this world, get into the elevator, and go up to the penthouse. Go up to that place called Ayin, which is Kuloi Toiv. And that's called Bitul. Another word for that is Bitul. Bitul means I'm being mevatel the Gashmias. I'm being mevatel this Gashmias world. I'm being mevatel my body. This is Chasidus? No, this is Halacha. In Shulchan Aruch, in Hilchos Shmon Esrei, it says you should know that Chasidim are Rishonim, that the Erlich Yidden, you know how they used to daven? They would start off with Hispashtus Agashmius. They would unplug all the wires that are Azoy Shteit in Shulchan Aruch. Take a look. Sif Aleph, in one of the Simon of the Halachos of Shmon Esrei, it says Chasidim are Rishonim, when they would get ready to start Shmon Esrei, they would have Hispashtus Agashmius. They would disconnect from this world, and they would disconnect from their body. They would unplug to let the neshama float, and the neshama go up to that higher place, to Atzilas. In Shmon Esrei is Atzilas, to be able to go up to that very high place, which is Kulei Toiv, which is everything good. So now the Rebbe begins here. I gave a little Hagdoma. V'hine be'emes b'shas habitul. That's why we say shemalis. Eso einay elahorim me'ayin yovo yezri. Me'ayin yovo yezri. Where is my yeshia going to come from? The answer is me'ayin, from ayin. Ayin aleph yud nun is another word for this keser, another word for this bitul. That from ayin, a person can get the greatest yeshia, a yeshia that he can't get from chachma, from gvura, from netzach, these midos, from the regular rachmanos of Hashem. He goes up to the rachmim gedolim, which is this keser, which is this ayin, which is this bitul. May ayin yovo yezri. From that place called ayin, a person can get any kind of help that they need. The person in the worst situation. How do you get there? It requires bitul. The more that I'm mevatel, my gashmias, when a person fasts, even tanishoas, person follows the Rebbe's Eitzah, he doesn't eat before Shachris. That's called tanishoas. Any lessening of gashmias increases. The Rebbe says in the last shir he gave in his life, Rosh Hashanah, Tikutei Chocha, that there's mezayna de gufa, mezayna de nishmasa. They're on a seesaw. The more mezayna de gufa, the more mezayna de gufa, the less mezayna de nishmasa. The more you feed the body, the less strength the neshama gets. The more you take away from the body, the more you give the neshama a chance to go higher and higher to a higher place. Any questions so far? V'hine be'emes b'shas bitul shenizbatel ala tachlis. When a person goes into this bitul, that he closes his eyes completely to Olam Hazeh, to Gashmias, to nonsense, and he wants to connect only with Hashem. Shenizbatel atachlis shu kuloi toiv kuloi echod. That tachlis is kuloi toiv kuloi echod, and echod is bigematria avo. The Rebbe brings another place. There it's azai be'emes nizbatlen hayisurim. When a person does that, he shuts off the Yisurim. He can turn off the Yisurim. What does it mean? It means he can get to a place where he doesn't feel the pain. They say from one of the Moshitzer Rebbes that he had to have an operation, and the doctor told him it's going to be very, extremely painful. You have to have very serious anesthesia. He said, no, I don't. Not interested. No anesthesia for me. You'll die from the pain. No, I won't. Watch me. You're going to tell me exactly when the pain is supposed to be. Give me a minute or two to prepare, and watch me. What did he do? He went into a dveikus of a nigun. Moshe is known for the nigunim. He went into a nigun, and he went to a place, this beetle, that he went above chachma. He went to this place of a complete beetle, where the cutting the body doesn't feel anything. I just heard today a shir from my Shvezach, the Red Tzvi Rosenfeld, a clip where he spoke about this. He spoke about that when a person has real das, and the Rebbe writes it in this Torah and other places, when a person has real das, the Eibishter can't test him. Hashem can't test him because pain, nothing. It's kaporas. It's a gift. Thank you for the pain. He doesn't feel pain. Nothing is negative. It's kuloi toiv. It's kuloi ava. So again, that's das. Here we're talking about going above das, going to a place that's even higher than das. That's bitul. He says over there, nizbatlen hayisurim. But as long as you're living, you can't do this for a long time. Just like a person goes underwater. We know what it is to go underwater, right? Hold your breath. How long? You better know how long. Because if you stay a minute or two longer, you leave the world. We stories, people dying in the mikveh. How did it happen? All kinds of Rahman al-Islam. The learning should be a schus for helpers.
Alten Naftali ben Sion ben
Alten
Mendel.
Naftali ben Sion ben Mendel. So have a ganze refia. A person, that's going. There's beetle going up. There's a beetle going down in the water. Chas v'shon, person can die. So the Rebbe says, as long as a person is living in this world, he's not allowed to, and it's impossible to stay in that state of bitul, permanently. Ki im kain yetze migeder anoishi, because if he does, he's going to leave the status of anoishi. Arba nichnusu lepardes, the Gemara says. Rabbi Akiva ben Azai ben Zoyma Acher. One of them died. Ben Azai ben Zoyma, one of them died. What happened? He left the Geder Anoishi, period. He left the Geder Anoishi. He left no more human being. He made a connection there, so high a connection, and didn't have the kalim to be able to come down back with it. He didn't have the parachute, so he stayed up there, period. His neshama left him. The other one, they thought he was crazy. He wasn't chas v'shon. Again, he couldn't put it, he connected to such a high oil, he couldn't put it into kalim. He couldn't, only Rabbi Akiva, it says, nichnas v'yotza b'sholem. Nichnas v'yotza. He had to come out. He wasn't allowed. Reb Nasan writes a few times in Likuti Halachos that as long as I'm in this world, you have to come back. You're not allowed to stay up there. Person's doing dveikus and things, he has to be able to turn over. And there are stories, Rahman al-Islam, Ribo Yorer, Goyrem Shviras HaKelim, Rahman al-Islam. V'alkein muchrach sheyiyah habitol bebechinas rotzoi v'shoy. So a person who's going to try to do this while we're living in this world, the beetle must be in a form of going up and coming back down. Now, when the person's seichel, which went all the way up, it left the category, went up to the keser, and now it's coming back down. Shehu kli haseichel, it's coming back into the kli haseichel, the chokhmah, the bina, the das. Azai efsher lahamoichin shehem hakelim lekabel zeh haseichel shebechinas bitul. The standard moichin, the kelim of chokhmah bina das, are 1,000 volts. We know that the spheroids they're called shin ayin ahoirin of oiraponim. The 7 lowest spheroids are called tens units. 10, 10, 10, 10, that's 70 lights. The 3 upper spheroids are called hundredths units. Keser is called alofim, pele, 1,000. You have 1,000-watt plug. You want to put in a bulb that can only handle 100 watts. You want to put 1,000 watts into a 100-watt thing, it's going to explode. It's not going to work. Because this beetle is ein soif. It's infinite, and infinite cannot go into kelim normally. That's why the Zohar Kodesh says, Ani Rishon va'ani achroin u'min balod elikim. Ani is the Malchus, Ani ledoidi v'doidi li, and that's achroin, and Ani Rishon, Ani is the Oisius Ayin. The Keser is Ani, the Keser is Ayin, and the Malchus is Ani. It's all really one. It's all really one. But when we're talking about this Ein Soif, how do you take Ein Soif and put it into a Keli? Ki hu b'chinas Ein Soif, shu b'chinas atachlis, that's the peak. Sho kula yechad kula toiv. Umachmazeh margish hamoyach hatzar shel hayisurim. Because you can't bring that back down, if you were able to bring down that Ein Soif and hold on to it, you wouldn't feel Yisurin, just like you didn't feel it during the Beetle. But since you can't do that, so then the moment you come back down, the pain comes back. You're feeling that pain again. Ki ikar hahargosha shel kol hayisurim v'kaevim chas v'shalom hu b'hamoyach. Because when you step on a person's toe and he screams, ouch, the toe hurts, not the toe hurts, the brain hurts. We know that there are wires going from the toe to the brain, and if those wires are working correctly, when you step on that person's toe, there's a message that goes up that wire to the brain saying somebody's stepping on the toe, and that hurts. And it sends a message back down to the toe to pull out or something like that. So, and we know that when they cut the nerve, chas v'shalom, sometimes in a person, different reasons, they cut the nerve, the person doesn't feel anything. You can bang on his hand with it, he won't feel any pain at all. So he's saying the ikar hargosha of Yisurim and Kevim is in the moyach. Ki mehamoyach yoitzin tzinoirois lechol hoevorim kulam. Vayidei zeh margish hamoyach hake'ev be'ez ever shehu. And that's how the moyach knows that it's the toe. A person puts his finger, person's standing near a stove and he doesn't realize it, and he puts his finger near the fire and suddenly pulls away the finger. Wow, my finger is so smart. It knew to pull away. Your finger isn't smart, your brain is smart. There's a wire going from the finger, and that wire communicated to your brain that there's fire there, and that's what, and the brain sent the message to pull away. He's telling us here to understand what a human being is. That a human being is a neshama and a guf. And there are people who are busy catering to the guf and worship the guf, eating and sleeping, and they don't realize the guf is a piece of meat. You go into a butcher shop, you see a big chunk of meat hanging there, that people have taivas niyuf. That go into a butcher shop and look at that and say, this is a taiva? What am I, crazy? How nuts could I be? How mashikat could this malach make me that could you imagine this occupies my, look what it is. It's a gornish, it's a mamish gornish. Elamai, there's a neshama connected to it. There's a moyach and a leiv, there's a neshama, and the neshama is chelik al kamimal, it's elikus. It's an incredible high-level thing. V'da she'achar kach kishechoyzer me'abitul ala kelim, when the person comes back from the beetle. Now, this beetle, one example of beetle is hispoidedus. When a Breslov chassid has hispoidedus, that's supposed to be beetle, each one on his level. Does that mean I have to close my eyes when I have hispoidedus? Some people close their eyes, some people don't. What does hispoidedus means? I'm leaving, I'm going chutz min hayishuv. I'm going away from people, I'm going away from everything. I'm trying to connect to bodod, alone with Hashem. Hashem, it's Hashem and me. That's one level. That's standard hispoidedus. There's a higher level than that, where there's not Hashem and me, there's no me. The person is mevatel himself completely, there's only Hashem. Shechina medaberes mitoy groinei. It's not me talking to Hashem, it's kaviyochel Hashem speaking to Hashem. That's why we say on Yom Kippur, you want to know what the Kohen Gadol looked like when he came out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim? We know that Yom Kippur is called Keser. Rosh Hashanah is Malchus, the first day of the 10 days, and we're going higher and higher till we get to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur we say, Lefnei Hashem Titharu. The word Titharu is Bigematria Keser. Ki vayoyim hazeh yechaper alech, yechaper. We should say Ki hayoyim hazeh yechaper. Yom Kippur is mechaper. That's the Lashon in the Gemara. But it doesn't say that. It says Ki vayoyim hazeh, on this day, yechaper. he is going to think, who's the he? He is Loshin Nistar. He, H-E, is Nistar. Ato is Noichach. Who, or he, is Nistar. He is the Keser, that on Yom Kippur, the Kapora, the Slichas Avonis comes to the highest place. That's why on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Gemara says there's 10 levels of Kiddush in the world. Eretz Yisrael is one, Eretz Yisrael is Malchus. Eretz is Malchus. Then Hecher, Yerushalayim, Hecher, till you get to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Kodesh HaKadoshim is the Keser. There, the Kohen Gadol went in on Yom Kippur. And a Breslov Chosid who has his Spoidus, it says, you want to know what the Kohen Gadol looked like when he came out of Ki Yoshev Seiser Lechalois Pnei Melech. The Breslov Chosid sits in a hidden place, pleading with the king, Mare Kohen. That's what the Kohen Gadol looked like, because it's the same thing. The Kohen Gadol did, when he went into the Kodesh Kadoshim, there was a beetle. If he was thinking about any Gashmias, he died. Period. So the Kohen Gadol had to be in the highest level of Dveikus, Shema Mefoirash, and that's what the Rebbe taught us, that a Yid who wants to get out of all of his pain and suffering and all the bilbulim of this world, his spoidus, to go to be alone with Hashem, this beat to be mevatel yourself completely to Hashem, in what? In tefillah. Tefillah is a form of beetle. Tefillah is that I realize there's somebody much higher than me. There's somebody that has all the solutions, everything possibly that I need. Baruch Nis B'Gashmias, Hashem has it. So he says now, when the person comes back down, the pain, the problems seem worse than before. Worse than before. Like when two people are fighting with each other, when one of them sees that the other one is winning and another minute he's going to lose, then he puts adrenaline, all the adrenaline, he fights with all of his koiches to try to throw the other person off him. When the Midas Hadin, when the Sitra Achra sees that a person is trying to win, to destroy the Yisurim, al yidei habitul al tachlis, azai he mischaskim umizgabrem beyoiser. The Yisurim, the Midas Hadin comes back much stronger. V'alkein achar kach kisheshov me'abitul, azai ha'Yisurim hem gdoilim yoiser mikoidem. This is why sometimes a person has his boidus, and he feels, mamish, now I have Hashem in my pocket. I'm a malach elikim, I'm bigger than a malach. I had his boidus, I'm keser, mamish. And he comes back and he figures he's going to hear that in the bank, they just got $1 million, and he's going to hear that he doesn't have to have the operation anymore. All the problems unsolved, and he suddenly ping fakert. He gets, it looks like things are worse. So what did I do? I thought I'm going to make it better, I made it worse. I would have been better off if I didn't have his boidus, chas v'sholem. Because the Sitra Achra sees that he wants to escape, so the Sitra Achra says, not so fast. But the Rebbe always has an eitzah. There's always eitzahs. Bittul alone is not enough. A person who's going to daven, there's a pasuk, Meisir Oznoi Mishmoya Torah, Gam Tfilosoi Toyeva. Person thinks he's going to be a Breslov Chosid, and he's going to daven all day, and he's going to dance all day. He doesn't know that it's not going to work. It's not going to work. To make matzah, you need flour and water. If you put in much more flour and leave out the water, you're not going to have matzah. And if you put in much more water and leave out the flour, you're not going to have matzah. You need both. Yiddishkeit needs the yesod is two things. Torah and Tefillah. Tefillah is dveikus. Tefillah is dveikus. The Rebbe brings the pasuk, Naftulei elikim niftalti imachoisi gam yocholti. That one of the taichas of Tefillah means dveikus. That the ikar dveikus is during Tefillah. But dveikus alone is not enough. A person needs, because he says that you're gonna have dveikus. One of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to die. If you do too much dveikus, you'll leave the world before the right time, chas v'shalom. Or if you don't die, you're going to come back and you're going to find your problems got much worse and you don't know what to do with it. I don't understand. I did dveikus. How could it be that the problems didn't go away? The answer is, and not just that, but they got worse. Through his chachus HaTorah. And his chachus HaTorah means, for a person who's a Baal Madrega, it means that the person is ma'ayin in Torah, and he's able to see new things, mamish to see chidushim in the Torah that aren't written on the Sfarim. There's a person here, I don't want to embarrass anybody, who every day, every week, puts out beautiful emails with chidushim. Every time there's a yard site of a tzaddik, beautiful things that he sees in the Torah, in all kinds of things, about each person has his matana. Hashem gave a person a kishorim, the ability to see certain things. It says, Mokim hinichu la'avoisai, that the Eibishter left, and every single person has an ability. And Rav Nasan writes, but what about most of us who are not in that madrega? So he says, when a person sits down to learn Torah with a hischatshus, with an attitude that I'm learning this for the first time, that I believe that they're going to lay in Shabbos, they're going to lay in Parshas Vayeira. It's not last year's Vayeira. This is a brand new Vayeira. The Torah is Ein Sof. Hashem is Ein Sof. The Torah is Ein Sof. Whatever we saw last year, and with all the millions of Sfarim that have been written to Parshas Vayeira, they didn't touch it yet. The Baal Shem Tov says, Torah Hashem Temima. That the Torah, no one has even penetrated the surface of the Torah. The Torah is still whole. Nobody, but with all the thousands of Sfarim. So a person who learns with that attitude, that's also called Ischachus of Torah. Shezoichin al yidei hayisurim. As a result of the Yisurim, the person wants to escape. Where can I escape? The only place to escape to is the Beis HaMedrash. The Gemara says, in Poga b'cha menuvel zeh, if this menuvel, the Yetzer Hara, is attacking you, how? Either with aveiros or pain, yisurim, suffering, financial worries, whatever it is, moshchei lebeis hamedrash, drag him to the Kal yidei hayisurim bo lebechinas bitul kanal, because the yisurim drove the person to this bitul, that he's screaming, ouch, and he closes his eyes tight and he gets to that bitul. V'achar kach, afal pi sheshov me'abitul, afal pikein mehorishimu shenisha me'abitul, aydezeh nases chachus HaTorah. Even though he disconnects from the bitul, he doesn't disconnect completely. It's not a complete. When you have oil, when you have water in a cup and you spill out the cup, you can just about get rid of all of it. When you have oil in a cup and you spill it out, you won't get out. Some of it remains. And moichen, seichel, is called shemen mishchas kodesh. So even when the cup gets emptied, there's still a reshimu there. There's still some oil in there. And from that reshimu, that gives this person, that elevates this person to a madrega, to be able to see new things in the Torah, to feel his chachus in the Torah. Because this person did this bitul, he closed his eyes and he took off, he went up to a place of connecting to Hashem on a very high level. Vehisig shekol hayisurim heim toivois gedolos moed, and he was zeicha to get a taste of a realization that these yisurim are a favor, because it's only through these yisurim that I'm able to get to this bitul. There are certain people who never tasted what it is to cry to Hashem. A man. There are certain people. I know my wife, Zilzang Gezin. She walks into Kevarochel, you can count 1, 2, 3, and she's crying. And by me, I can count to 1 to 1,000,000 and not crying yet. Different people have different hearts and different koiches. But sometimes a person gets backed into a corner. Sometimes a person gets put under such pressure or such strain that suddenly they start crying. And the person, I can't believe it's me. I can't believe that I do have a heart. My heart isn't just avonim, just steiner. There is a leiv basar somewhere underneath all of those stones. And the person starts crying to Hashem, and the person realizes, this is big, this is worth more. My problem is $800,000. This is $8 billion. To have the zechiyah to cry to Hashem, you know what that's worth? You know what how big that is, how special that is. So he says here, the Yisurim drove the person to this bitul. The person gets put the Zohar Kodesh says, "Inchi beduchka lo istak lamidi." When it came to the Meraglim, Kollel and Yeshua understood that this is a dangerous mission. They saw the potential churban that's good. We know that the churban Beis Hamikdash, the first Beis, the second, all the churbanos and Klal Yisrael came from the Meraglim. So the Zohar Kodesh says, where did Kollel ben Yefune get the guts to go into Hebron? Today, go into Hebron, by yourself. And in those days, it was the same Hebron. There were giants. The Zohar Kodesh says, "Inchi beduchka lo istach lamidi." When a person's under enough pressure, he doesn't look at anything. Something, kishroinis, come out from inside. There are stories about a car that went on top of a child, and the woman picked up the car and pulled her child. Where did she get those koiches? When a person is put under a certain kind of a pressure sometimes, the person can get to an aliyah that they never could have gotten to without that kind of a yerida, without that kind of pressure and yisurim. Adrenaline, exactly. That's the English word for it. I'm sorry? It's a madraga? Of course. Because again, the person, I gave a moshel. You get a person who never cried in their life to Hashem. And suddenly the person finds themselves in such a metzias, and they start crying, mamish crying, And the person is like surprised. I never knew I had it in me that I could do such a thing. You hear stories. There was a person in Russia that they put him in prison for years, and he said that one of the days in prison, he said a person who was not such a frum person, he said the whole Sefer Tehillim 3 times in one day. What kind of koiches does it take for a person who's not a Talmud Chacham to say the whole set? He was in such a matzav, felt so lost that there's nothing else. He saw that there's nothing else. No one else can help him. Only the Eibishter. And he was able to run 1,000 miles. Say the 450 kapitel Tehillim, in one day, in one shas. So ki al yedei habitul shenezbatel el hatachles vehisik shekol hayisurim hem toivus gedoyles moed. When a person has this kind of bitul, the person comes back afterwards with a feeling that it's all good. It's all good. Everything's going to be okay. Al yedei zeh nismali simcha. This can fill the person with a feeling of simcha, that the person connected to such a high place where he had a feeling that it is all good or it's gonna be all good. V'hasimcha hu kli el chidushin doiraisa. And we know that simcha is the keli to give the person the schia of being zeichet chidushin doiraisa. Where do we see it? From Matan Torah. K'mo yishamar v'sein zechron avrocha b'shor shamar Yisrael na'aseh v'nishma. When the Yidden said na'aseh v'nishma, through which they were zeichet to Kabbalas HaTorah, Yordu shishim ribu malachim v'nasnu shnei ksorim b'rosh kol echad. Malachim came down and they put crowns on everybody's head. Ukeshechatu, and when the Yidden had the Egel HaZahav, they took the crowns away from them. V'osid HaKadosh Baruch Hu lachziram lanu. And there's going to come a time when Hashem is going to give those crowns back. What are those crowns? It's silver, it's gold. Shenemar v'simchas oilam al rosham. Those crowns are simcha. Simcha is keser. Simcha is the highest, that's the keser. The pasuk says, simchas oilam al rosham. On top of that, what's on top of the head? A crown. and simcha was the nasa v'nishma. From simcha they were zeichet to be mekabel the Torah. Nimtza shehasimcha hi bechinas nasa v'nishma shehu bechinas kabbalas haTorah. ועל ידי הסחטשוס התורה שזויכן על ידי הרשימו של הביטול כנ"ל, על ידי זה מקרן הייסור אחר כך. Through this new connection to Torah that a person has after this bitul, through this will cool down the yisurim. כי על ידי זה מכוון, that's why I remember hearing from my Rebbe, Reb Michal Dorfman, Zechron Avrocha, that by Chatzois, when a person says that tefillos of Chatzois, it's very important to learn something. There are some people that stay up the rest of the night and learn till the morning. But even if not, to make sure to learn something. Reb Nasan brings it in a few places, look at the halachas, and this is one of the places where, again, when you have the bitul, person has the bitul, and the bitul is finished. If you want to be able to retain, if you want to be able to use that, you have to have a kesher to Torah afterwards. This hischachus in Torah. And that's what makes it that you're able to take that reshima from the bitul and use it, make real good use of it. Ki hargosha. Sorry?
The reshima is the simcha, or the reshima is the Torah?
Let's see. From the Reshima, the person is zoichet ischa. As a result of that Reshima, there's some, when a person has the beetle, like we said, oil, you fill a keli with oil, you spill out the oil, some of it is left. That little bit of that beetle that stays with the person, that gives the person the ability to make a new kesher to the Torah. His chachas HaTorah. And he says, one second, and he says that because when a person experiences that bitul, he's masig that all the yisurim are toives gedolos, and through that he becomes filled with simcha. That das again, because again he had bitul. Bitul is keser. Keser is simcha. The simcha, it's one item. It's one place.
Both Ksarim are simcha?
I believe yes. Why two? That's another question. But here it says they put two for Nasa and Nishma. The Rebbe talks in a lot of places. What's Nasa? What's Nishma? Nasa is Torah. Nishma is Tefillah. Lishmoya el horino vel Tefillah. The Rebbe talks in Torah Chav Beis and in other places. But again, in a general way, this is the Keser. This is Keser. This is Simcha. This is. Validei his chachas haTorah shezon le'reshim shva aydezeh mekarne yisurim kaydezeh mechaben tzimoin hanefesh. Now he introduces another term, tzimoin hanefesh. We know that when a person is thirsty, one of the worst types of suffering begashmius is real tzimoin begashmius. There's a tzimoin beruchnius, a tzimoin hanefesh. Ki hargoshas hayisurim hu bechinos tzimon hanefesh. Because feeling pain and suffering is a form of tzimoin hanefesh. Ki tzimoin hu al yidei malichas. Because we know thirst is associated with salt. Umalichus hu bechinas yisurim. And salt is associated with yisurim, like the Gemara says. The Gemara says in the beginning of brachas, nemar bris b'melach v'nemar bris b'yisurim. The Gemara makes a gzeira shava there, where it says, what's the pasuk that the Gemara brings there? You remember? Eretz malecha v'lo seishe, but the Gemara there brings in the beginning of brachas. Take a look. The two psukim bris by melach, it's bris melachan, and the word bris is used also by yisurim. No. We'll look it up afterwards. Brachas tafei. Ki hanefesh hibas haseichel. Ki iker gidul hanefesh. The nefesh is a product of the seichel. Ki iker gidul hanefesh walidei haseichel. Because what nourishes the nefesh, hachochma techaye ba'aleho. What nourishes the nefesh is the seichel. Shemegadlo u'mesakno. That's megadlo, that raises the nefesh and is mesaken the nefesh. The word nefesh usually refers to malchus, right? Malchus is called bas melech. Malchus is called bas melech. He's saying here, we'll see in just a second, and he says that the nefesh is a product. The nefesh receives from the seichel. The seichel is the source of chiyas for the nefesh. You'll see in a minute. U'k'mashikosav gam b'loy das nefesh loy toiv. If the nefesh doesn't have das, it doesn't have toiv. Toiv is das. The Arizal brings that the name of Hashem for das, the name of Hashem for Chochma is Yud Kei Vav Kei, Bina is Ekeh. The name for das is, what's the name of Hashem for das? Aleph Hey Vav Hey. Bereishis Borlekim is Ha'es Hashamayim Ve'es Oretz, which is Bigematria Toiv. That's why it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayeira oisoi ki toivu. Toiv. And that's why it says, Gam b'loi das, nefesh loi toiv. Das and toiv go together. So in order for a nefesh to have toiv, it has to have das, it has to have seichel. That's the toiv. Ukisha seichel b'shleimus, azai hu oise peiros. When the seichel is b'shleimus, then it generates peiros. It feeds the nefesh. And
What means the same
Shlem, kishodom yoidea shekol moiroisav hem kulei letovosav. That's one dogma of seichel b'shleimus. Avol kishenivgam seichel, but when the seichel is pogum, azai hu bechinas eretz pri lemelecha, then instead of earth that produces fruit, it becomes a salty earth, like a desert sand that doesn't. V'hamalichus hu bechinas hayisurim. And we said before, salt and yisur, it's the same thing. Shemargishin al yidei she'ein haseichel b'shleimus. Again, yisurim and thirst, simoin, are both come when there's a lack of water. Ein mayim el Torah. Seichel is called mayim. No mayim, simoin. No mayim, yisurim. V'hu bechinas simoin hanefesh. V'al yidei ha'ischatshus haTorah. And by the person having ischatshus in Torah, that cools off the Yisurim and that turns off the thirst. That's satiate. Ein mayim el Torah. That the Torah quenches that thirst, that simoin hanefesh. Bebchinas hoy kol tzomei l'chul hamayim. The pasuk says, you're suffering from this simoin, go to mayim. V'zeh b'chinas. Oh, this is the pasuk that the Gemara brings there. Ashrei hagever asher tiyasrenu ko umitoiroscho telamdenu. The Yisurim, what's the solution for the Yisurim? Umitoiroscho. Kalidei ha-Yisurim zoichel ischatshus ha-Torah. Because the Yisurim brings the person to the bitul. He goes to that bitul. When he comes down from that bitul, if he does the right thing, if he goes into the Torah, he has this ischatshus ha-Torah, and that combination of the Torah and the Tefillah, that's the winning combination. That's Shleimus. We're going to have Hanukkah soon. We're going to Hanukkah. 8 candles Hanukkah. Hanukkah is Miloshin Chinuch. What is Chinuch in Yiddishkeit? Chinuch in Yiddishkeit is Torah and Tefillah. Chamisha Chumshei Torah and Shloisha Tefillahs. That's that Rav Nasan brings Likuti Alochas. That's Yiddishkeit. Da ki al yidei Torah niskablan kol Tefillah. Is there anything in Yiddishkeit that's not included in those two categories? I'm sorry?
Why is it called Chinuch?
Because chinuch means education. Chinuch means start Chanukah Sabayis. I'm starting to build a house. How does the Likutim run start? 8 candles. Daki al Torah, niskablan kol atfilas. That's the whole Yiddishkeit. That's the whole Yiddishkeit. V'zeh simen shepoal al yidei ha-Yisurim v'kiblam koroi. We know there's Yisurim shel Ahava and there's Yisurim she'ena shel Ahava. Now remember, we said before, Ahava is Echad. Ahava is Echad. Ahava is another nickname for the Keser here. This place that's Kuloi Toiv. Kuloi Toiv. Toichoi Rotzuf Ahava. It says about the Shechina Kedosha, Merkovoi Argomon. On the outside, it's purple, it's red, it's Dinim. Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, right? Is Dina de Malchus Dina. The inside, Toichoi Rotzuf Ahava. The inside is white. The first letters of Toichoi Rotzuf Ava, Tov Reish Aleph, is the gematria of the word Shechina, B'milui. When you write the word Shechina, B'milui, it's Tov Reish Aleph, keneged the Tov Reish Elef Neshamois of Yisrael, that make up the Shechina. So again, the outside, it looks like Midas Adin. The inside, it's Kulech, it's that super chesed, that Kodesh HaKadoshim. And also, the Arizal says, take a look at Hashem's name, Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. Aleph Dalet Yud is Dina Malchus Dina. Let's look at what's inside. Aleph Lamed Pei. What's the inside? What's the Toich? The Lamed. Daled Lamed Tov, Nocha Lamed. Nun Vav Nun, a Vav. Yud Vav Daled, a Vav. Lamed Vav is B'gematria Chesed. That's this Toichoi Rotzuf Ahava. That on the outside it looks like Midas Adin. On the inside, when you're zeicha to go inside, when you're zeicha to go to this bitul, and then you're zeicha to this ischatshus haTorah, you see that it's toichoi rotzuf ava. An apple, you look at a red, delicious apple. What color is a red? It's red, right? Of course. How much red? A millimeter. You peel that millimeter, it's 99.9% white. That's this. And the Isurin brings a person to that beetle where he can peel away the red and he can see that it's toichoy rotzuf avo, it's mamish avo. כשזוך אחר כך לחידושן דרייסה, שזה סימן שזוכו לבחינס ביטול אל התכלס על ידי Isurin. When the person is zoicha to a new connection to Torah after the beetle, that's a siman that he did this right, that he was zocha to a real bitul atachlis. Vayeira zocha lechidushin v'raisa al yidei horashimu, through the rashimu from the bitul. He went up to the keser. He didn't stay up there. He remembered to come back. Came back down into chochma bin adas. He went into Torah. He learned some Torah. That's the shleimus of this whole tikkun. We should be zocha to absorb the Rebbe's eitzes, to his chachas and tefillah, his chachas and Torah, which will bring the Geula Shlema.
Amen.
Amen.